Alright guys, today we are going to talk about the good old tier discussion. Tier discussions are pretty pointless for many reasons. I'll explain why. But there is definitely a reason why they are also important. We will get to that in a second. Let me say that a perfect place for excuses to be made and for bruised egos to be falsely healed is with tiers. Everyone has at some point blamed their frustrations and their shortcomings on tiers. You've done it, I've done it, your grandma has done it. But the more you grow as a super turbo player or fighting game player in general, and the more you grow as a person playing the video game, the less you are to care about tiers and the more you put the blame on the real problem, and that is your lack of knowledge and skills. It's very simple. I'm not saying tiers do not matter, but they only matter when you are at the highest. Now, we're talking less than 1% level of skill. I'm serious. Most people think this is like this discussion they have all the time. Like, yeah, tiers don't matter until you're really good. No, it's not when you're really good that they matter. It's when you're at the very top, you're a master of a game. That's when they matter. Because, for your information, tiers are made on data that comes from the most dedicated player. So only current masters of that game, being the best at the game, that's what masters of something are. The people that are the best at something. Those are the people that are making these tiers. As a player who's getting started, your tier list is shifting. It's something that people don't really understand, is that tier lists are always going to depend on your skill level. So the tier list of a pro player is nothing like yours, because you have matchups that you know better than others. You are not really learning matchups in order of difficulty, and you are probably struggling with a character that is actually easy to beat for your character, but your lack of knowledge and skills is making that matchup hard. And it's a common thing to see. I'll tell you an example. When I was unable to understand Blanca's matchup and how Boxer has everything going for him, and Blanca has nothing going for him in that match. So once you understand that, Blanca is a character that even if you're playing against a very good Blanca, you are going to have the advantage if you know the matchup. They're always going to be the ones struggling to win. So with that said, I'm going to do a quick rundown from beginning to end on a tier list that is my tier list for Balrog. From the matches I've had with pro level players, I can safely say that Claw is definitely the hardest. But I'm going to tell you this, just because Claw is so broken with the wall dive, it doesn't mean that anyone's just going to pick him up and become the next champion, right? You still need to be a good player. So when people say, yeah, anyone that wins with Claw is getting free wins, that's not a real character. You're winning because you're getting carried. Well, if that's the case, go ahead, pick Claw and become the next Super Turbo champion. It's not going to happen because it's not just about using a character that is really good. You have to actually be really good at fighting games and have great reactions and be good at reading your opponent and baiting your opponent, etc. So that BS about, yeah, a player that uses Claw, he wins because he's using Claw. BS. I'm pretty sure the people that say that have actually tried to pick up Claw and they get destroyed, and that's why they're so salty and they get mad because someone using Claw wins. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to be honest. I never cheer for a Claw player. Still, I do cheer for a Claw player when it's someone like Hokuto who goes to France or to Japan and actually beats everyone up and only ends up losing to the best player in the world, who also happens to be a Claw player, obviously, being Mao, but barely loses against him. So let's all forget about that BS about Claw being a character that carries you 100%, because just because the character is cheap and is very, very powerful, it doesn't mean that they're just going to pick him up and become a champion. Okay, next is Chun-Li in my list. Why? She's got everything needed to keep Balrog from rushing her down. It's more about being able to get in, but being able to do that against Chun-Li and all the shenanigans she has. The stored supers, even stored supers on cross-up, which is really broken. So I'll say this, only Chun-Li players say that Chun-Li is not completely broken. I think Chun-Li is even more annoying than Claw, to be honest with you. Even more. Because with Claw, the wall dive is the one thing that is really, really, really annoying. With Chun-Li, it's like every move she has is annoying. Everything she does is annoying. And like I said, only Chun-Li players defend Chun-Li. Still, like I said about Claw, this is not saying that anyone that picks Chun-Li is immediately going to be champion. Being a really good Chun-Li player requires skills, very technical character to really exploit her, most amazing and deadly combos and strategies. But definitely a character that is very powerful and annoying for Balrog and for pretty much every other character. I mean, let's be honest about this. One of the greatest Balrog players from the West actually quit ST because he said that the Chun-Li Balrog matchup was just a load of BS. And obviously, it is a matchup that you can win with Balrog, but in my opinion, it's actually a matchup that you have to be extremely good with Balrog to win against Chun-Li, while Chun-Li can be a mediocre Chun-Li and win against a good Balrog. That's how I see it. I'm not saying that a mediocre Chun-Li is going to beat a top-level Balrog, but you don't have to be as good with Chun-Li as you have to be with Balrog to win that match. That's 100% something I will continue to believe, even if I get to the point where every Chun-Li becomes easy for me to win against. So, with that out of the way, I do have respect for players that use those two characters at high levels because I know that at high level, any mistake can mean death. So, high level ST has that one thing about it that I do like. That it's such a precise game and the strategies you use are so deadly that a single mistake can mean the end of the entire fight, especially with certain characters and matchups, right? So you really have to be on your toes and you have to be at the best of your game regardless of the character you use. Moving on though, Zangief. I'll tell you this, Zangief used to be the character I hated the most against Balrog because I felt it was impossible to win against Zangief with Balrog. It just felt impossible until I learned the matchup, and I will give props to Cigar Bob because it was him that actually took the time to show me how to win and what exactly I need to be doing to fight against Zangief. Even though I understand the matchup now, really good Zangief players like Mega Man X and Cigar Bob, of course, still are a huge problem for me because they know exactly how to bait certain things that they know. They understand that I know the matchup, so they know what to do to try to bait me into doing certain things, which is the beauty of playing a fighting game at high level, right? And I went from hating that matchup to it becoming one of my favorite matchups in the game because you have to become a sniper with Balrog. It's like you have to be reacting to everything that happens and you can't let the Zangief player get close to you. So you have to know exactly what to do in every situation. As soon as you see him move, you have to be punishing, you have to be keeping him from getting close to you. It's a matchup that requires extreme levels of attention and reactions, which is great because it helps you level up. So Zangief is definitely a super difficult matchup for Balrog, but I'll say this. Once you understand the matchup, it's pretty even. I mean, it's a 50-50. The thing is that Balrog has to work a lot more. He has to land more hits. While Zangief only needs to get one good knockdown and it's game over, right? But Balrog needs to knock him down several times and pick him apart little by little. You can't just bully a good Zangief because you're going to be eating an SPD. So, very good fight and a lot of respect for good Zangief players for sure. The next was going to be controversial because I think most people would put Fei Long way lower in the ranks, in the tiers. But in my opinion, this character has shown to be an incredibly powerful character, especially against non-fireball characters like Balrog or anyone with no fireballs. He's just extremely difficult to handle once he gets a single knockdown. And I'll say this, even though I feel that Zangief has the upper hand in that match against Balrog, it's pretty close with Fei Long because once Fei Long gets a single knockdown, I think he's even more deadly than Zangief because there's nothing you can do. If you're in the corner, forget it. It's over. It's game over, 100%. It's not even like, yeah, maybe you can get out. No, there's no way out. If the Fei Long player knows how to trap Balrog and how to do certain option selects in the corner, he's just going to destroy the Balrog player. And we've seen it even at the highest level. Japanese players going 10-0, Fei Long versus Balrog, on Fei Long's favor, 10-0. And we're seeing really good players now like Zombie Damage who are just doing incredible things with the character and destroying everyone. Balrogs, Claw players, Honda players, pretty much every matchup that is supposed to be difficult for Fei Long. This guy is showing that if you really know how to exploit the character, he is incredibly powerful, like deadly powerful. And I have all the respect in the world for really good Fei Long players, because even though he does have that power once he knocks you down, you need to take very serious risks with your Rekkas especially if you want to, capitalize on Fei Long's most powerful and difficult strategies to handle, right? So much respect for Fei Long players. It doesn't matter how good the character is, in my opinion. It still requires a very good player to be controlling the character for him to shine the way that he can, right? Next is Dhalsim. I mean, there's really no need to say much here. If he gets you in the corner, you're done. Generally speaking, Dhalsim has a lot of tools to handle Balrog. But once again, much respect for Dhalsim players. You need to be extremely good with this character to win any matchup, in my opinion, in Street Fighter. So a lot of respect for Dhalsim players, for sure. And very annoying matchup, in my opinion, but not as annoying as Chun-Li or the other characters I put on the tier list. And I'm telling you, I've fought the very best Dhalsims out there, including Yito. Anyone that tells me that's not a top level Dhalsim, then I don't know who is, right? And he wins against my Balrog without issues. I can take a few matches from him maybe, but never a set up to this point. I've never taken a set from him. And still, I don't feel that matchup is as difficult as others, because unlike other characters, you can really mess with Dhalsim when it comes to the wake-up game. He really doesn't have anything to work with on the wake-up. And you can, most Dhalsim players can, that's like their weakness, right? Maybe not at the very top levels like Yito or other Dhalsims that are really good. But generally speaking, you can really handle Dhalsim and put him in, pretty much lock him up with a series of rushdowns, and it's a good match, in my opinion. It's a difficult match, but not the hardest for Balrog, in my opinion. Then we have T-Hawk, same as, it's the same thing as Zangief. The thing is that for me, T-Hawk has much more of a problem getting in than Zangief does. And he can be punished a lot easier, in my opinion. Obviously, there are T-Hawk players that are so good that just one mistake and you're out. Balrog mirror is just stupid, Get one knockdown and you start that throw loops and just pray that you can get a throw reversal, but usually it's just going to be over at that point. Stupid match, probably the second stupidest mirror match in the game. Only Honda versus Honda is dumber than Balrog versus Balrog, because Balrog doesn't even play Balrog's game when he's in a mirror match. All he does is look for a knockdown and start the throw loop, which he can't do against many other characters in the game. But against himself, it's the dumbest thing in the world. So a matchup I've never enjoyed. I understand it, but it's always like a coin toss, especially when the other Balrog also knows the strategy that he has to follow. Pretty dumb match. It's not like, like a mirror between Shotos. That is a match where it doesn't matter that it's the same character. For example, Ryu versus Ryu, it doesn't matter if it's a mirror, because the playstyles can be so different. You don't have to follow a specific playstyle to actually win that matchup. It's the best mirror in the world, in my opinion, is Shotos going against themselves. It's a Shoto mirror, for sure. Okay. This was also kind of weird for some people. Osagat should be at the top of the tier list of difficult characters for Balrog, according to most people. But in my opinion, he is very difficult to handle, sure. But you have to be almost impeccable with your playstyle to actually win against a good Balrog if you're using old Sagat, or Sagat for that matter, and Sagat as well. The thing is that you really have to be at the very, very top of your game to win those matchups. And I've fought a lot of great Osagat players that are top level, and it never feels like such a difficult match unless they're really, really good. And like I said, they play at an impeccable level where they really understand the matchup at levels that are like beyond even high level. It's like super pro level, in my opinion, for you to be a good Osagat player. And that's the reason why he's not that high on my list. Same with DJ. DJ is not very difficult for Balrog unless the DJ player is really good at zoning. He has to be extremely good at zoning. And in my opinion, when a DJ player is really good at zoning, that is when the matchup is annoying and difficult for Balrog. But otherwise, it's not that difficult. Then we have Ryu, Ken, and Guile. It doesn't matter if it's O Ryu, N Ryu. It doesn't matter. Same with Ken. In my opinion, all Shotos are not too difficult for Balrog, but if they are very good, like top level, they are very annoying to fight because it's hard to get in. And if a Shoto player is really good, he knocks you down once and you're in the blender, and 2 mistakes or 2 wrong guesses and it's over. It's not that difficult because it's 2 wrong guesses usually. And still, very fun match in my opinion. A lot of respect for Shoto players. Shotos are actually my pocket characters in both their versions. Very fun. Definitely characters that deserve respect at high levels. It's true, you have to be really good with them to actually be a predominant player in the ST community. Guile, same thing. You really have to be at the very top of your game, like really, really at the top of your game to be a problem for Balrog. Mainly like really good zoning that understands how to anti-air when Balrog tries to get in, or how to stop his dashes with jabs. A good player with Guile is definitely difficult. Honda, I've always said, Honda, if you play the boring, horrible matchup of just standing there and mashing jab and waiting for an opening and never letting him close enough so that he can Ochio, I think he is very manageable, but still a nightmare if he gets close. Very difficult. Dictator, same thing. It's a rough match for him, in my opinion. But if the Dictator player is really good, like a Reno or even Yito, he's becoming really good with Dictator, to the point that he will force you to lose your charge because he keeps doing the stumps and he just flies all over the screen and makes you lose your charge. It's a very annoying match. But generally speaking, he doesn't really have much to work with. And if he doesn't have super and you knock him down, it's going to be a problem for him. So Cammy's not at the bottom with Blanca for one reason. While Cammy has very little going for her in the match, she's very annoying with that crouching forward. Very annoying. So generally speaking, she's not very good, but a top level Cammy can be an annoyance for sure. But just like it happens with other characters, in my opinion, you really have to be at the very top of your game. Same thing with Blanca, like I mentioned earlier. Blanca is just a character that has nothing, pretty much nothing going for him in that matchup. If you understand the matchup, it's going to be hell for him. So he has to be at the very top of his game to consistently win against the Balrog player. With that said, this is all from my perspective of all the time that I've played, especially lately that I've been playing against very good players at high levels. This is how I feel about my matchups with Balrog. Out of all of this, the most important thing, don't worry about tiers. Worry about which character feels like it clicks with you, a character you enjoy. That's what matters the most, really. Pick a character you enjoy. For me, boxers and shotos have been my favorite forever. But boxing, generally speaking, to me is the greatest form of combat. So the point is, pick a character that you enjoy. Don't pick a character that is just, yeah, this is the top character, so I'll go for Claw, I'll go for Chun-Li, I'll go for Balrog, I'll go for Sagat. No, pick the character that you like. And if you want to use a top tier character, then look for the top 5 top tiers, the top 5 characters in the game, and then make your choice based on the one you like the most. Not the one that is at the very top. Because it can't be fun to just use a character because you feel you're going to get more wins out of it. If you're really good at a game, you're going to make it work with any character. Just like a guy like Komoda makes it work with Blanca. You know, at the very lowest level, still a guy that has won tournaments and destroyed the very best players in matchups and in tournaments at some point. So, that is what I'm getting at here. Tiers don't really matter. Only at the very highest level do they matter at all. So, never focus on that. Don't think of it as something that you should consider unless you are at the very highest level. Alright guys, that's it for this one. Remember to subscribe if you like the content, and I will see you in the next one.